Isabella presses her palm against the cold glass of the office window, staring at the skyline that gleams like shattered diamonds under the city lights. She can feel the tension coiling in her chest, a silent storm she's been carrying for months. Tonight, she finally decides she's leaving, but the question that claws at her is impossible to ignore. Will he even notice? Alexander Kane, the billionaire whose name dominates every headline, whose empire stretches from Wall Street to private islands, has relied on her for everything, yet he doesn't know the half of it. She's been his secret, his anchor, his shadow, the one person who keeps his world from collapsing in chaos. And maybe, just maybe, he's about to lose more than he ever imagined. Her phone vibrates on the mahogany desk, and she swallows a tight knot of anxiety. One message, no words, just an emoji. She has memorized the meaning of his way of reminding her she isn't invisible. Isabella turns away, grabs her bag, and steps into the marble lobby, every click of her heels echoing like a countdown. The elevator doors close with a mechanical sigh, sealing her decision inside. Yet the tension in her chest refuses to dissipate. She's walked this line before, balancing professionalism with something dangerously close to intimacy, and every interaction with Alexander has been a puzzle she's learned to master. But tonight, she's done playing pieces in someone else's game. Alexander leans against his office doorframe, watching the city pulse beneath the lights. His suit is impeccable, the sharp lines cutting through the dim glow of his private floor. But his eyes betray a restlessness no tailored fabric can hide. He's not expecting her departure tonight. He hasn't even considered it. Isabella is more than an assistant. She's the quiet force that corrals his chaos, the mind behind his meticulously controlled life. Without her, deadlines, deals, and facades will start cracking. And yet, when he hears the faint echo of her heels fade down the corridor, a cold twist of dread settles in his stomach. Her taxi waits, engine idling, the scent of expensive leather and city rain filling the car. Isabella sinks into the seat, letting the door shut with a sense of finality that feels both terrifying and exhilarating. She scrolls through her phone, thumb hovering over a message she drafted a dozen times, each word a potential spark that could ignite consequences she can't predict. Alexander Kane doesn't just lose people, he loses control, and control is everything to him. But what will he do when he realizes she's gone? Will he notice? Will he care? Inside the penthouse, Alexander's hand hovers over his phone, torn between the life he meticulously designs and the one truth he refuses to face. She was never just his assistant. Every decision he made in boardrooms, every tense negotiation, every lonely night in penthouses and private jets, it was all filtered through her. And now, she's leaving. The thought is unbearable. He should stop her, he should call her back, but something in him hesitates, something he hasn't felt in years. Vulnerability. Isabella drives through the rain-slicked streets, each red light a pause in the chaos of her emotions. She rehearses the words she'll say, the reasons she'll give. Yet the most frightening truth is unspoken. Leaving Alexander Kane might mean leaving a part of herself she doesn't know how to survive without. Her heart races as she approaches the destination she picked at random, a quiet, unassuming cafe far from glass towers and boardrooms. Maybe there, she can find the clarity she's desperate for. Maybe, there, she can breathe. But just as she steps out of the car, her phone buzzes again. This time, the screen lights up with a name she thought she'd never hear from in a moment like this. Alexander Kane. Her chest tightens. She freezes, hand on the door handle. The message is simple, almost absurdly casual. Are you really leaving? Isabella stares at it, rain dripping down her hair, the world blurring around her. The answer she's carried for months is right there, but the instinct to reply, to pause, to hesitate, is overwhelming. Somewhere, deep inside, a truth she refuses to admit starts to surface. Leaving him may not be as simple as walking away. And as she types the first word of her reply, the world seems to tilt, the city's lights flickering like a warning. The elevator dings in Alexander's penthouse, the sound startling in the silence of his office. He doesn't move. His fingers linger over his own phone, unwilling to send the next message, unwilling to accept what leaving truly means. For the first time in years, he's faced with uncertainty, not in a deal, not in a contract, but in something far more terrifying. Losing the one person who understood him completely. And then, just as Isabella hits send, the unthinkable happens. The cafe door swings open behind her, and a shadow falls over her shoulder. Isabella spins around, her pulse hammering against her ribs as the shadow resolves into a familiar silhouette. Alexander Kane. His presence fills the small cafe like a force of gravity, impossible to ignore. And yet there is something in his eyes she has never seen before, flicker of raw emotion, unfiltered and almost vulnerable. He steps closer, the sound of his polished shoes muted against the worn wooden floor, and for a moment, time fractures. The storm outside mirrors the one inside her chest, lightning and rain painting the world in a haze of tension and anticipation. "Isabella," he says, voice low, measured, yet threaded with something dangerous, anger, relief, fear. She can't tell which, and that uncertainty gnaws at her. Why? The single word lands like a brick, heavy, immovable, and it carries the weight of months she's spent carefully hiding the truth, the exhaustion, the loneliness, the sacrifices she's made while keeping him at the center of her life, untouchable, unreachable. I have to," she whispers, unable to meet his gaze. Her hands shake, gripping her bag so tightly that her knuckles blanch. It's not about you. She trails off, the words failing under the gravity of what's unfolding. Every instinct in her screams to run, to flee the magnetism of his presence, but her body betrays her, frozen in a mixture of fear and longing. Alexander studies her like she's a puzzle he's never solved, and something in his expression changes. His jaw tightens, but his eyes soften, revealing the flicker of the man behind the empire. "Not about me," he repeats, almost incredulous. "Isabella, you've carried my life, my reputation, my mistakes, my secrets. For how long?" His voice rises just enough to shatter the quiet hum of the cafe. "And you're leaving because..." She meets his gaze then, for the first time unflinching, and in that brief moment, their history, the long nights of planning, the whispered advice during tense boardroom deals, the laughter she thought she had buried under professionalism. "So, because I need to live my own life, Alexander, not as your assistant, not as your secret. I need to breathe outside of your world." Her words land with both fragility and defiance, a declaration of independence he's never anticipated. He doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he circles her, slow and deliberate, his presence pressing against hers like the tide against cliffs. Every detail is familiar, the scent of his cologne that lingers in his wake, the quiet authority in his posture, the weight of his gaze, but now it carries a different charge. One she can't escape, one she doesn't want to, though she knows she must. "Do you think this is easy for me?" he finally says, softer, almost breaking. "Every deal, every decision, every sleepless night, I've relied on you, not because I had to, but because I trusted you in a way no one else deserves. And now, you're walking away as if I'm just some name on a contract." His hand trembles slightly, betraying the controlled facade he's perfected over decades. Isabella swallows hard. This is the Alexander Kane the world never sees, the man behind the empire, stripped of his armor, exposed in the rawest form of emotion. And she realizes, with a twist of fear and desire, that leaving him isn't just about freedom anymore, it's about survival, for both of them. A silence stretches between them, thick and suffocating, broken only by the rain tapping against the cafe windows. Then, unexpectedly, Alexander reaches for her hand. It's a small, almost tentative gesture, yet it carries the weight of every moment they've shared. Isabella's breath catches. Every rule she's built around her heart, every boundary she's enforced, starts to crumble under the pressure of his touch. "I can't let you leave," he murmurs, the words almost a plea, almost a command. "Not like this, not without knowing." He hesitates, swallowing, eyes scanning hers for any crack in her resolve. "If you're making a mistake..." Her heart races as she pulls slightly away, but his grip is firm, anchoring her in place. "This isn't a mistake," she whispers, her voice trembling between certainty and fear. "It's me choosing myself for the first time." Alexander's eyes darken, the calculated calm replaced by a stormy intensity she's never seen before. "And if choosing yourself means walking out of my life forever?" The question hangs between them, charged and electric, and for a heartbeat, the world seems to pause. Then the cafe door bursts open behind them, and the sudden intrusion shatters the fragile bubble they occupy. A figure steps inside, soaked from the rain, urgency radiating from every movement. Alexander tenses instantly, his protective instinct kicking in as his gaze locks on the newcomer. Isabella follows his line of sight and freezes. It's someone from Alexander's past, someone who carries secrets she didn't know existed. Their presence here now threatens to unravel everything she thought she understood about him, about their relationship, and about the life she's trying to claim for herself. The stranger's eyes meet Alexander's, sharp and calculating, and a name escapes their lips that makes Isabella's stomach twist. "Alexander, we have a problem." Isabella steps back instinctively, her heart hammering, as the stranger advances. The air between Alexander and this intruder crackles with an intensity that makes the cafe feel smaller, almost suffocating. Rain drips from the newcomer's coat, pooling on the floor, and every droplet feels like a countdown to chaos. Alexander's jaw tightens, his usual unshakable control fraying at the edges, and Isabella realizes just how deep the iceberg of his life goes, one she has only glimpsed from the surface. "Isabella," Alexander says sharply, his voice both protective and warning, as if she might step too close to the storm without realizing it. She freezes, caught between fear and fascination. He's a man she knows intimately, yet tonight he's a stranger in some ways, raw and unpredictable. The stranger's gaze flickers to her, calculating, and suddenly she understands. She is part of this equation, more than she ever wanted to be. "Alexander," the newcomer says, voice low but cutting, "we don't have time. It's about the merger, the one you've been hiding." Their eyes dart to Isabella, almost apologetically, almost like a weapon drawn against her unprepared defenses. Isabella's stomach twists. Hiding? What is he hiding? And why is she only now learning the truth? Alexander's posture stiffens, the mask of the untouchable billionaire snapping into place, but his eyes betray panic, a storm behind the calm facade. "This isn't the time," he says, though every syllable trembles with urgency. "Not here, not now." He glances at Isabella, and for a fleeting second, vulnerability replaces authority. "Go, please." Isabella hesitates. She wants to obey, to disappear into the night, and reclaim the life she fought so hard to hold. But something in the tension, the unspoken truth in Alexander's eyes roots her to the spot. She wants answers. She needs to know what she's been missing, what secrets have shadowed the man she's been leaving behind. The stranger takes a step closer, urgency rising with every second. "Alexander, the documents they've been tampered with. Someone inside the company is planning to leak everything. If this goes public, it could ruin you. All of it." Their words hit Isabella like a punch. Her mind races. The empire, the power, the meticulously controlled life Alexander Kane has built. It's all fragile, a house of cards threatening to collapse. Alexander's face hardens, mask slipping back into place, but she notices the tension in his jaw, the tight grip of his hands. He's not just fighting a business battle, he's fighting for control, for survival, and for the truth no one else can touch. "Who?" he demands, voice sharp, demanding loyalty from a world that rarely gives it freely. The stranger shakes their head, a grim expression painted across their features. "I don't know yet, but you need to trust me. This is bigger than anything you've dealt with before." They glance at Isabella, a flash of warning in their eyes, and she doesn't know what she's walking into. Alexander's eyes flicker to Isabella, and for a fleeting moment, the walls between them crack. The city beyond the cafe windows seems to blur, the rain turning into a curtain that separates their fragile moment from the chaos outside. "Isabella," he says, softer now, almost a plea, "stay. I need you, not because I can't handle this, but because I don't want to face it without you." Her chest tightens, caught in the gravitational pull of his words. Every fiber of her being screams to leave, to reclaim the autonomy she's fought for, yet she feels the weight of their connection. Years of silent understanding, trust, and unspoken loyalty pressing down on her. The tension between wanting to run and needing to stay twists her gut into knots. The stranger's phone buzzes, and their eyes widen as they glance at the screen. It's happening now. The leak, it's already in motion. Minutes, maybe seconds. Panic sharpens every word. Isabella feels her heart race, the room tilting, as if the city outside is collapsing into this single, unbearable moment. Alexander steps closer to her, hand brushing hers almost by accident, almost deliberately. She can't tell. "You can leave after this," he says, voice low, intense. "But I need you here, just for tonight." The plea is magnetic, almost impossible to resist. Isabella swallows hard, caught between fear, loyalty, and something more complicated, a dangerous pull she doesn't want to acknowledge. Every instinct tells her to protect herself, Yet the part of her that knows Alexander Kane better than anyone is screaming, "This isn't just about business. This is about them, and the truth they've been hiding from themselves." Before she can respond, the cafe door bursts open again, this time with force. Rain lashes inside, carrying with it the scent of chaos, and a shadowed figure stands silhouetted against the storm outside. Alexander stiffens, and the stranger's face drains of color. Isabella's breath catches in her throat. The figure steps forward, voice calm, cold, and terrifyingly familiar. "You thought you could hide it, Alexander," they say, each word deliberate, each syllable a blade. But secrets always come out, and tonight, everyone will know. Isabella's mind reels, heart pounding so violently, it feels like it will escape her chest. Alexander's eyes lock onto hers, and in that moment, she understands. Leaving him now is impossible. Not just because of him, not just because of the Empire, but because the storm isn't just outside anymore. It's inside, and it's coming for all of them. Isabella's breath catches in her throat as the shadowed figure steps closer, the rain-slicked light casting a jagged pattern across their face. Alexander's posture hardens instantly, the calm, controlled billionaire giving way to a storm barely restrained. Every movement, every glance, radiates power and danger. But there's also vulnerability, an unspoken plea that only Isabella can read. "You should have told me," Alexander says, voice low but sharp, each word trembling with barely contained fury. All of it. His gaze slashes into the stranger, as if trying to burn through the lies they carry. "Now you forced my hand." The stranger smirks, a cold, calculated tilt of the lips that makes Isabella's stomach twist. "You always think you're in control, Alexander. But some things, some people, are beyond even you." Their eyes flicker toward Isabella, a flash of recognition and warning in their gaze, and she's too close, too much in the way. Alexander steps protectively in front of her, tension coiling in his muscles like a predator ready to strike. Isabella's instincts scream to retreat, but curiosity roots her in place. She's seen Alexander navigate boardroom betrayals, hostile takeovers, and public scandals, but this is different. This is personal, intimate, a collision of his carefully curated world with a past he thought buried. The stranger produces a folder, slick and black, tossing it onto the polished cafe table. The papers inside glint ominously under the fluorescent lights. Financial records, private contracts, email correspondences, all meticulously compiled evidence that threatens to undo everything Alexander has built. Isabella leans in involuntarily, her mind spinning. She realizes, with a growing pit in her stomach, that her world, the one she thought she could step into freely, is now entangled with his chaos, and there's no escaping the fallout. "Do you have any idea what you've just walked into?" the stranger asks, voice cutting like glass. Alexander's hand tightens around hers for a split second, grounding her, a silent warning. This isn't just about money, it's about loyalty, power, and revenge. And it starts with you. Isabella freezes, the weight of the words pressing into her chest. She glances at Alexander, whose jaw is rigid, his eyes hard, yet shimmering with something she hasn't seen before. Fear. Not fear of failure, not fear of loss, but fear of losing her, of losing the one person who has understood him in a way the world never will. "Stay close," he whispers to her, low enough that only she can hear. "No matter what happens, don't leave my side." His voice is a tether, pulling her into the eye of the storm, even as panic claws at her mind. The stranger smirks again, flicking through the documents. Minutes, maybe seconds. "Alexander, this leak, it's already spreading. If it hits the media, every secret, every deal, every personal connection you've buried will explode publicly. And she," the stranger's gaze lands on Isabella, sharp and cutting, "will be caught in the fallout." Isabella's stomach twists. The life she fought so hard to claim, freedom, independence, a chance to be her own person, suddenly feels like a fragile illusion. She sees the intensity in Alexander's eyes, the raw, unfiltered need to protect her, and she realizes the truth she's been denying. Leaving him is no longer an option. Not now, not with the storm barreling toward them. Alexander moves like a coiled spring, reaching for the folder. The stranger steps back, smirking, but there's a sharp glint in Alexander's eyes, a promise, a warning, a threat. "You think you can control the narrative," he hisses, voice low but dangerous. "You don't know me, and you don't know her." Isabella steps forward, voice trembling but firm. "What do we do?" The words feel foreign coming from her. She's always been the observer, the assistant, the shadow. But now, the gravity of the situation forces her into action. Alexander's eyes flick to hers, and in that brief, silent exchange, she understands everything without a word. They're in this together. The empire, the secrets, the danger, none of it matters unless they fight side by side. He nods once, decisively, and she feels the pull of their shared history. The trust that's been unspoken for years solidify in an instant. The stranger's phone buzzes, sharp and insistent. They glance at it, a flicker of panic crossing their face. It's happening now. The leak, it's going live. Alexander's grip on Isabella's hand tightens, and for the first time, he's not just a billionaire, a mogul, or a man in control. He's a protector, a strategist, a man who refuses to lose the one person who matters more than anything. "We end this," he says, voice low, ironclad. Together, Isabella swallows, heart hammering, knowing the choice she's making will change everything. The cafe door swings open once more, rain lashing inside like a warning. The stranger steps forward, smirk fading, eyes cold and calculating. And then, without warning, the lights flicker around the world. Outside the cafe explodes into chaos. Notifications ping across every device. Messages, alerts, leaks, all cascading in a relentless wave. Alexander's empire, meticulously curated for decades, teeters on the brink. Isabella's hand trembles in his, and she meets his gaze. Are we ready for this? Alexander's eyes are unflinching, dark, and magnetic. We don't get a choice, he says, voice low, dangerous, alive. We survive, or we fall. And I'm not letting either of us fall. The notifications flood every device like a tidal wave, relentless and unyielding. Isabella watches in disbelief as the carefully constructed empire Alexander Kane has built for decades begins to unravel in real time. Financial reports, private emails, internal contracts, they're all out, splashed across news feeds, headlines, screaming scandal, betrayal, and exposure. The cafe feels smaller, the air thicker, every breath a challenge as the reality crashes over them. Alexander stands rigid, jaw clenched, eyes stormy, yet unblinking, calculating, as though even now he's plotting every move to regain control. Stay close, he whispers, voice low, almost intimate, and she does. Side by side, they step into the chaos, a synchronized force moving through the storm. Isabella realizes she's no longer just the assistant, no longer the shadow in his world. She's a partner, a strategist, a presence he cannot do without and one he doesn't want to. The stranger who brought the leak watches them with an expression that teeters between fear and admiration. You think you can stop it? They ask, voice trembling. Alexander doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he studies the situation, calculating, precise, every decision a move on an invisible chessboard. Then he speaks, calm and absolute. We don't stop it, we control it. Isabella blinks, trying to process the audacity of his words. Control the leak. How is that even possible? But she watches him, sees the fire in his eyes, the relentless precision that has built empires and crushed rivals alike. She knows, instinctively, that Alexander Kane doesn't flinch. He adapts. He conquers. And tonight, she's part of that strategy, whether she's ready or not. He pulls her aside, huddled near the edge of the cafe where the rain still lashes in, and lays out a rapid plan. Calls to board members, legal teams on standby, selective leaks to journalists they can trust, and above all containment, every move is precise, ruthless, yet executed with a clarity that takes Isabella's breath away. This is the man she's known in private moments, the one behind the empire's polished facade, and now she's seeing him fully, unrestrained and alive. Hours blur into a relentless storm of messages, phone calls, and calculated risks. Isabella works alongside him, adrenaline fueling her, every decision a mix of fear and exhilaration. She sees his vulnerability, not weakness, but depth, and understands, in a way she never could before, why she stayed in the shadows for so long. This is bigger than loyalty, bigger than money. This is life, raw and unfiltered, and for the first time, she's living it not as an observer, but as a participant. And then, it happens. A critical leaker document that could have destroyed Alexander's reputation and the trust of every investor arrives in the wrong hands. Isabella freezes, heart pounding, expecting him to falter. But he doesn't. With a swift movement, calm but fierce, he intercepts the situation, neutralizing the threat before it can spiral out of control. Every move is precise, every action deliberate. And Isabella realizes she's watching someone who thrives in chaos, someone terrifyingly brilliant and utterly human at once. After hours that feel like days, the storm begins to subside. The leaks are contained, damage minimized, and the empire, though bruised, stands. Alexander leans back against the cafe table, rain still dripping from his hair, suit disheveled, but eyes glinting with triumph and exhaustion. He looks at Isabella, and for the first time, there's no mask, no guard, no barrier. Just him, raw and open, and her, exhausted but alive, having faced the storm with him. "You stayed," he says softly, almost a whisper, the weight of the night reflected in his voice. "Even when it would have been easier to walk away. Even when it would have been safer." Isabella swallows hard, chest tight with emotion. I couldn't. Not now. Not after seeing this. You." Her words falter, incomplete, but they carry everything she feels: fear, respect, loyalty, and something far more dangerous: love. He steps closer, hand brushing her cheek, rough and deliberate, grounding her in the moment. "I don't need you as my assistant," he says, voice low, magnetic. "I need you. You've always been my best-kept secret, Isabella. But I don't want to hide it anymore, not from the world, and not from myself." Her heart races, caught between disbelief and longing. "And if I leave again," she whispers, the fear of vulnerability surfacing. Alexander's hand tightens around hers. "Then I'll find a way to stop you," he says, a dangerous smile curving his lips. "Not because I can't live without you, but because I don't want to. Not ever." The rain outside slows, the storm dissipating as dawn edges over the city's skyline. Isabella realizes, in that quiet, electric moment, that leaving was never about him, it was about finding herself. And in staying, she's found something she didn't expect: a life intertwined with his, chaotic, unpredictable, and alive, where secrets no longer define them, and love is the only power they cannot control. As they stand there, rain-soaked eyes locked, the cafe silent but for the distant hum of the city waking, Isabella knows the truth. Some secrets aren't meant to be kept forever. Some storms aren't meant to be faced alone. And some loves, no matter how complicated or dangerous, are worth staying for.